engaging with some of this, and it occurred to me that it may seem contrary having a poet, someone whose art is made up of words, reading at a conference that has as a main focus end-of-life care explained in pictures. And certainly it crossed my mind while researching and writing the piece. I found reconciliation when meditating on my craft and the aims of the pictogram work. The use of poetic or literary language has been described as an ambition to make the ordinary strange. For me, this means to describe things in a way that will make the reader or listener consider subject matter in a new light. I felt this almost binary opposition of my art, the use of language to create images, with the work of the pictograms, using images to create language, provided a stark contrast and an intriguing setting for this creative work. Using the pictures that we've looked at today as visual cues, I set to create something that may complement the work being done here. You'll have to forgive me some creative freedom, as though I have taken some time to understand the subject, reading accounts of patients and healthcare professionals like many of yourselves, and some academic texts. Of course, I am writing here as someone who has not experienced firsthand the revelation of their own death, and thus I make no claim to accurately depict how any given person might feel, only to represent one possibility. I say this partly because the poem broadly adopts a third-person perspective. In the final verse, it switches to a first person to emphasise the voice of not me as the writer, but an individual patient who is, in that moment, both the subject and object. The poem is written in 3 sections, the first seeking to evoke sound, the complexity of language, and a reaction to medical terminology when receiving news of one's death. And this is perhaps a departure from the compassion picture which we've seen around today. The second section suggests an individual coming to terms with this revelation and processing what will come next. And finally, the third describes, with hope, the joy still to be found and had, with a distinct focus on the creative arts engagement in palliative and end-of-life care. In my research, it was work here that, perhaps unsurprisingly, chimed with me the most, and so it is here I wish to end on a note of positivity, through images of patients engaging in a therapeutic act, creating for themselves. To quote Nigel Hartley, whose book, The Creative Arts in Palliative Care, provided me with much food for thought, the arts bring with them possibilities for motivation and growth, for coping and change, for self-actualization and self-realization. They also offer possibilities to make sense of situation, create something of value, and to leave something behind which says, this was me, this is what my life has meant. So it is on this message of optimism I will end now and read for you, because, to paraphrase Hartley again, the alternative to language that the creative arts provide in palliative care can offer a means for the services to respond to diversity in the communities that they serve. The poem's at the moment untitled, so if anyone would care to suggest one, I'd be very happy to listen to that. It's number 1. Through the wash of static, the turgid, the fustian, incomprehensible waves, the jargon of jargon, jarring and juddering, up and up and up and up, and still the arrow meets its mark. The surety of such darkness funnels through, emptiness channeled, delivered with surgical precision in the exacting of a phrase. It is the syntax of a closing door, a lexicon for a car backfiring, the grammar of the sky falling in on itself over and over again. With what utterance can one who has not walked the banks of the Styx answer? So difficult to put in words, and what more is there to say? How to arrange this anxiety when each thing whispers in its own unique way. 2. Shuttered windows keep in or out the silence. Form is muted like signage that bears the mark of prohibition. Profound distress, individual to the subject. It screeches and scratches. It screams like a burning question. Night breaks like only day should. Temperature performs as if it were light. A body that used to glisten in the sun seems to crack, frail and faltering. A thing becomes too big to speak of. Things are too big to think of. Who will prepare these meals, clear this table, wash these dishes? Who will draw these curtains when King Qingguang summons to court? Knowing the end is near is not knowing the end. 3. The sun has not set for a last time, though words cannot express how the absence of this thing sharpens the knowledge of its presence. There is still light to be found in the most common of places, in conversation with loved ones, in the fulfilling of tasks, renewed ambition and new goals. Life now is altered, not ended, in the arranged odour of flowers, in the feeling of fingers gripping clay, in lively colours mixing in the palette, with delicacy or deliberateness, a brushstroke that can capture the vitality of life well lived. Through this release of meaning is the closing of the circle, the reflection of, the expression of, the collection of this joyous life. Here is the changing mood of the sky, the brightness of a vibrant past. Here I am, there I feel free. Here I am, where the sun shines across my being, and I am home. Thank you.